Good morning, backyard kids, and happy Easter! Today is a great day, and not just if you love chocolate bunnies. Today is the greatest day of the year because when you put your trust in Jesus, this is when you finally see the bigger picture that God has been creating all along. This, the Easter story, is where hope truly shows up. So today, as we tell the Easter story, we'll start by picking up where we left off last time. Jesus had arrived in Jerusalem, and the people celebrated him by cheering, by putting their coats in front of him on the road, and by waving palm branches in the air. It was a happy, exciting day, but things were going to get pretty bleak and dark for Jesus and the disciples very soon. See, the religious leaders had been plotting to get rid of Jesus because they didn't believe that he was truly the Son of God, and they had finally found the perfect way to get to him. These leaders had convinced one of Jesus' closest friends, one of his disciples, Judas, to betray Jesus for the payment of 30 pieces of silver. Of course, Jesus wasn't surprised by all of this darkness and sadness. He knew what was coming. And so after a special Passover meal with all of his disciples, Jesus reminded them that soon he would no longer be with them. He told them that very night, because of him, they would turn away. Now, after dinner, Jesus led his friends, his disciples, into the garden called Gethsemane. And there, Jesus pleaded with God in prayer. He asked God if there was any other way to do what had to be done. But Jesus knew in his heart that this was the only way, and it was what he had been sent to do. It was his purpose. And he was willing to do it, no matter how dark and painful that it would be. While Jesus prayed, his friends fell asleep. But soon, the quiet in the garden was broken by the sounds of soldiers and officials streaming into the garden, carrying flaming torches, and led by Judas. Jesus was then tied up and taken in for questioning, and just as Jesus said, his friends fled into the darkness, except for Peter and John, who followed at a distance. When they got there, John went inside, but Peter stayed outside by the fire to get warm. While he was there, several people recognized Peter and asked if he was one of Jesus' disciples. But Peter was afraid, and so he lied and denied knowing Jesus. Meanwhile, Jesus was put on trial and lied about by fake witnesses. The religious leaders then sent him to the Roman governor, Pilate, and Pilate then questions Jesus himself. He asked Jesus if he was the king of the Jews, and Jesus said that he was, but that his kingdom was not one of this world, but all who believed in him would be followers of the truth. Pilate then returned to the crowd, and he told them that he had found no reason to charge Jesus. But the crowd was enraged at that point, and they just shouted, "Crucify him, crucify him." And so Pilate finally gave in. Jesus was beaten, a crown of sharp thorns was pressed into his head, and then he was handed over to the soldiers to be crucified. Jesus was forced to drag his own wooden cross through the streets of Jerusalem, and then he was nailed by his arms and legs to the cross on a hill called Golgotha. And though it was the brightest part of the day, when Jesus died, darkness completely closed in. Afterwards, Jesus' body was taken to a nearby garden, and it was placed in an empty tomb, and a heavy stone was rolled in front of it to block the entrance. But even when things looked their darkest, God was still at work. Early on Sunday morning, Jesus' friend Mary Magdalene went to his tomb. But when she got there, the stone had been rolled away, and the tomb was empty, except for an angel who was where Jesus' body should have been. Mary cried, not knowing where Jesus' body had been taken, and as she turned back towards the garden, she saw a man standing there who asked her why she was crying and who she was looking for. Mary at first thought that he might be a gardener, but when he spoke again, Mary knew exactly who it was. It was Jesus, and he was alive. Well, Mary was so excited that she ran to tell the others. She shouted to them, "I have seen the Lord." And we still celebrate this wonderful day every year on Easter. Because of Jesus, because of what he did for us, we can have a personal relationship with God that will last forever. So we celebrate today because Jesus is alive. We can have hope because in the end, darkness will never win.